Welcome to Unscripted, a podcast with no script by design. We're not following a plan, and that's exactly the point. This show is about whatever's on the minds of your hosts, Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. We'll dig into what's happening in the world, and just as importantly, what isn't making headlines this week. So with that, let's get started. The conversation could go anywhere because we go wherever the microphones take us. Here's Larry Lannan and Duncan Giles. I'm Lannan, he's Giles, and this is Lannan and Giles Unscripted for Friday, November 14th in 2025. Welcome once again, Duncan Giles.
Thanks, Larry. It's always good to be here, especially after we've cleared our snafu that started it.
Well, we tried to record a few minutes ago, and the old adage of shut it down and reboot it did work in our case.
Yeah, that's the first thing, as I was telling you, that's the first thing tech support always tells you. If it doesn't work, have you tried rebooting? Okay, we weren't communicating. We weren't able to hear each other. We could see each other, but we couldn't hear each other. So, hey, let me shut my phone down, turn it back on, and what do you know? We're back up and rolling.
Well, we could have done a video-only silent movie. I guess that would be real entertaining, wouldn't it? Huh?
That worked for Mel Brooks. I don't know if it'd work for us.
Yeah, now people forget that Mel Brooks did a silent movie in the 70s, and that was, I think that was the name of the movie. I thought it was hilarious. It didn't do very well at the box office, but I liked it. I'm going to start off, Duncan, talking about the government shutdown, the longest on record. It has just ended a day before we record this. But here's the thing, Duncan. Many agencies, they do have their budgets for the remainder of the fiscal year going through the end of September 26. But a number of other agencies are only have a continuing resolution to the end of January.
Yep.
So we could be back at this, at least for part of the government, once again at the end of January.
It's sad. It truly is. You feel for the people. Right now, I really feel for the people, the federal government employees, who have either been working or through no fault of their own been sent home because of this situation and have gone without paychecks for the longest period of time in federal government history, and still will be going without for many agencies for at least the next several days. Then you've got the folks who the SNAP benefits were delayed, and many of those depend on that for at least the start of the month to get their food and things of that nature. And of course, the ACA premiums that are going to go up that there was no resolution to. And I think there's going to be an awful lot of sticker shock for people who are on the Affordable Care Act plan when they don't get those subsidies to decrease the premium. I think there's going to be a lot of sticker shock, unfortunately.
Let me give you four specific here. I checked the Associated Press, and they gave three, and I'll add a fourth, about how the shutdowns impacted people. The big one, I think, that always tends to get the subtlest one, air traffic and air travel is impacted, and it has been. There's been a big cutback in the number of flights. And here's the thing, it isn't going to just magically reappear tomorrow, because the FAA is not going to lift this order, because they're going to have to slowly get the air traffic control system back to where it was. And they don't know when that's going to happen. Now, the airlines say they'll be back to normal operations once FAA says they're back to their safety metrics, but nobody knows when that will be. And here's another, you mentioned the SNAP benefits. Do you know how many people in America receive SNAP benefits, what we used to call food stamps? 42 million. That's according to Associated Press. And they should be getting their full monthly benefits starting really this week, hopefully. But it could take another week for some of these people to get their full benefits. And, food pantries and nonprofits and local governments have been trying to fill this gap, but it's a big gap to fill. One other one that doesn't get as much attention. Do you know the national parks didn't have
Yep.
park rangers? Now, what
Right.
has happened, as I understand it, in most national parks, the local or state governments and nonprofits have stepped up to try to keep them open, to keep the visitor centers open, at least to the point where people can get out and enjoy the parks. But the rangers are just going to be coming back to work. And this, people forget there are a lot of backcountry areas to these national parks, and they know there's been some damage out there, and it's going to take a while to assess all that. One more thing, I talked to a tax professional just the other day. He's been dealing with IRS for years. And even before this, Duncan, they were having a lot of trouble just dealing with the agency, getting in touch with people that these professionals need to contact in order to do their work. And it was already bad because IRS has already lost 20,000 people. And then you take away all the people that were sent home for the shutdown, then ramping back up. People with tax issues that need to be resolved, they're also feeling this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and let me address those, as you mentioned, air traffic controllers. They're way understaffed to begin with. They're dealing with antiquated equipment. The stress on those folks, those men and women that are air traffic controllers, is absolutely tremendous. And that's why they have an earlier retirement age, just because the job is so stressful. So, messing with that, a lot of them were out sick, and the people that were there were dealing with additional pressures. And then you get the threats from some officials in the administration saying, "We're going to deal with these people who called in sick." You've got to be freaking kidding me.
Well, if you
SNAP
want,
benefits.
if you well, first of all, on FAA, if you really do want to crack down on these people, good luck. They can find work elsewhere, and where
Yeah,
you can find the new. It takes years to get an air traffic controller seasoned and ready to go.
exactly. It's going to take a while, and let's see that they want to do something that foolish. On SNAP, one of the things that truly gets me is, well, these people should be out working and they should be getting jobs. The vast majority of people who get SNAP are working poor, disabled, elderly. That's their main thing. And, these folks are working. They are doing what they can, or they can't work because of their disability, or they are elderly. Okay, I'd ask a senator or congressman if they want their grandparents to have to go to work because of this. But, most of them are grandparents themselves, so that wouldn't do much good. Um, the park rangers are incredibly important to the parks, not only to explain the basics of the park, what they have to offer there, things of that nature, the information that is just so valuable, but safety. It's a huge issue safety wise when you don't have those park rangers working. And lastly, for the IRS, as we both know, they were way understaffed before this year started. They are still understaffed. They were working towards getting proper staffing. Then you have the folks who took the deferred retirement, or just simply left the government, or were basically released because.
Oh, I think we've got a freeze up here on Duncan Giles. We've had this happen before. So we'll wait just a moment until we get Duncan back here. But he was talking about the IRS and how everybody does feel that when the
Yeah,
IRS is the IRS. Oh, you froze up on us, Duncan. Finish up your
yeah,
IRS thoughts.
yeah. Basically, because you look frozen to me, so I didn't know who was frozen. Um, Both of us are old enough to be frozen. Uh, the Yeah, the IRS was shorthanded before, and then you get the pressure of the administration not wanting to have as many people. So it's going to be tough going for this coming tax year. Is going to be very, very tough for anybody in the practitioner community or taxpayers to get a hold of somebody to deal with any issues they might have come up.
And Duncan, something else has happened that deals with the IRS, and I think should be mentioned here. Did you know that the Congress has just passed a new law dealing with IRS? It's called the IRS Math Act. That's right, the IRS Math Act. Now, when you get a notice from IRS and it's a math error, there's been a math error on your tax return, the IRS, I mean, used to give you a notice, and by reading the notice, you really couldn't tell where the error was. It was very difficult to figure it out. Well, now, and it's passed the Congress. It has not been signed by the president as of our recording time. It may be by the time you watch or listen to this. But what the IRS must do, according to this act, is explain simple math or clerical errors and would include the relevant lines on the return and listing any deadlines you might have to challenge that assertion. So, as you and I were veterans of working on the toll-free system at IRS years ago, trying to figure out math errors was a problem. Here's the other problem that goes with that. With all this staffing shortage, how in the world is the IRS going to implement this?
Yeah, good luck on any tax law changes that are coming through the pike. Good luck. There just aren't enough people to be able to do it. There weren't to begin with. And again, like you stated before, when the government reopens, it doesn't turn on a dime. It's like a huge ship. It takes a while to change course, and it's going to take a while for these government agencies, all these government agencies that were impacted, to basically start back up. Things of that nature. There are still a lot of people out there who, retired, for example, who are waiting for their annual leave payouts, or, what's going to happen with their retirement. OPM has, their retirement backlog has just jumped up significantly. And it's going to take a long time for all of these different things, whether it impacts taxpayers directly or indirectly, to come back to the fore. And I think you're going to see in the FAA, I think you're going to see still a lot of cancellations for Thanksgiving travel. I hope it's back better by Christmas, but it may or may not be, because it's going to take a while to get back up again.
So we'll see how that all plays out. In the meantime, Duncan, I think it's time to explore our stories that did not make the mainstream media. And the first story I'm going to talk about today is from Nokesville, Virginia. There were firefighters that had to show up there. There was a 900-pound horse that wandered into a pool area, stepped into the covered pool, fell into the pool.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine calling animal control and saying, I have a 900-pound horse that fell into my pool. How do we get it out? It wasn't easy. They had to use a ramp and a harness, and I'm sure it was a big spectacle. So nothing like a 900-pound horse stepping.
Yeah, that would be very tricky. And I was sitting there going, what do you use? Do you use a crane or all that? But no, a ramp with a harness would probably be the best bet. And again, firefighters and those that work in the first responders, great ingenuity. I mean, firefighters deal with such weird situations sometimes, and they have to come up with interesting solutions that are workable right there with what they've got. And to be honest with you, I think that's a perfect example of that.
Let's move on to the next one. And that was from UPI, by the way, that supplied that story. This is about a woman in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Now, she did what a lot of us do. She ordered some medications by mail and expected the package of medicine that she had ordered. Box came. Then she opened up the box. She found 2 human arms and 4 fingers. Now, WSM TV, WSMV TV is the TV station that reported this. Well, she did what you would expect. She called 911. Like, what in the world happened here? The county coroner for the Christian county where she lives, Scott Daniel, responded. He gathered up everything and they tried to figure out who actually should have received this. They actually found out who was supposed to get it, sent it to the correct recipient. But one thing that is not clear, why did these people need body parts?
Yeah, I was going to say, is this, Jeffrey Dahmer, want to be ordering something specific? It's very strange. I would hope that it's something for, medical research. Aside from that, I'm not sure what it would be except for forensic study, something of that nature. Other than that, yee.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a medical school. Otherwise, I don't really want to know.
Yeah. And how do you order those on from a medical practice? I don't think it's on Amazon.
No,
Um,
it
I,
might be.
yeah, I was going to say Jeff Bezos likes to sell all sorts of stuff, but as far as I know, he hasn't gone into corpses' body parts yet.
I think
Yeah, that's
some of our viewers and listeners are checking Amazon right now just to see. All right, let's go to the other side of the world in Tibet. Now, one thing they have in Tibet, wild grapevines. And now, and this is really interesting, it's now been officially recognized by the Guinness World Book. We haven't talked about them for a while. The Guinness World Book of Records has now verified this one grapevine in Tibet is 416 years old. That grapevine has seen a whole lot of history.
Yes, it certainly has. And in Tibet, with a lot of that culture, that is something that is very revered. They want to keep up their traditions. They want to keep things that are, aged, things of that nature. So that does not surprise me. I am a little surprised that Guinness was able to verify that to be able to get into Tibet to be able to do that, because from my understanding, it's a little tough to do that.
Well, yeah, getting in and out of the Chinese government's not real uh, it's not an open society. Let's put it that way. They're pretty particular about that. That story came from United Press International, as does this one. We're back to the Guinness Book again. A man from Minnesota decided he's going to visit Ireland. And when he went to Ireland, he went to what has been, I guess, a world famous ice cream shop there. It's called Teddy's. Well, it turns out that this man named James Clark from Spring Lake Park, Minnesota, went to Teddy's to try to break this world record. He wanted to set the fastest time for eating a 130-gram ice cream cone. That was the idea. So what Teddy's did is they did a Facebook video carefully weighing the 130 grams of ice cream on the cone. And then they went ahead and showed the video of Mr. Clark eating this ice cream cone. Again, the world record was 24.97 seconds. So, God, what did James Clark take to eat his ice cream cone? 24.72 seconds. So he beat the world record by 2/10 of 1 second. Now, the video's out there. It's been submitted to Guinness. Guinness has not verified it yet, but it looks pretty good. They seem to have all the evidence.
Yeah, and that's a smart way to do it if you're looking to do that sort of thing, is to make sure it's chain of evidence, so to speak. Make sure it's videos, things of that nature, and for them, it's not bad advertising for that ice cream place in Ireland to be promoting this and things like that, because all that publicity is great publicity for them. Maybe it drives in more people to their particular shop. Now, why the gentleman had to make that particular trek to have that record, I hope it was worth it to him.
Well, and just so you know, Mr. James Clark, this is his 35th Guinness World Book of Records. So he's a serial record holder with Guinness. He makes a living, I guess, doing these Guinness World Book of Record things that he gets into the book. So it's his 35th time. By the way, Duncan, can you imagine what it's like to see somebody eat a ice cream cone that fast?
The brain freeze alone would freak me out. But yeah, that's got to be Joey Chestnut type of thing. It just sucking it down very, very quickly. Yeah.
My final story is from Florida, and Florida just never seems to disappoint with these kinds of stories. A woman by her name is Taryn Ackrey. Taryn Ackrey was arrested. She is carrying a tote bag, and in big letters on the tote bag, it states, "Definitely not a bag full of drugs." So you're walking around with a tote bag that says in clear letters, definitely not a bag full of drugs. What do you think was in that tote bag?
Oh, it wasn't drugs because that's what it said on the outside. So I'm sure it wasn't.
Yeah, as the sheriff said, well, the bag was filled with snacks. Nah, just kidding. It was actually drugs. In fact, there was what was in there? They had meth, needles, Narcan, digital scales, baggies, and cut straws. That was what that was what was inside the tote bag that advertised that it definitely did not have drugs. It definitely did.
Yeah, that's talk about your false advertising. And I'm sure that that was probably an attempt to say, you can't search my bag because that states very clearly it doesn't have drugs. Well, I don't think the law works that way if they have probable cause.
And you know, Duncan, I don't know about you. I think we've talked about this before. I have a little guilty pleasure as a retired guy. Sometimes I get on YouTube and see some of these body cam videos. And to me, it's amazing how many people have no idea what their rights are and are not. You don't have the right to do this. You don't have the right to search me. You don't have the right to search my car. You're under arrest. We do. I'm going to sue you. Go right ahead. I'll never forget one judge. I was in a seminar once, and this group of teachers, as a matter of fact, kept asking this judge, "Could I be sued for this? Could I be sued for that?" And finally, he stopped the discussion. He said, "Let me tell you, this is the state of Indiana." He said, "In the state of Indiana, you can sue anybody for anything as long as you
Yep,
have a piece of paper and a pen to write it down on, and you have the filing fee. Anybody can sue anybody over anything." So the question is, can I be sued? Sure. The real question is, can you win?
bingo. That's the big thing. Yeah, you're not going to be able to process that one pretty quick for a lot of things. Or the people on those videos who say, "Hold on, I'm calling my lawyer." And as one commentator once said, "It is amazing to me how many of these people who can't pay for their license, their registration, or something else, all have their lawyers on speed dial who are going to respond to them at midnight." Um,
Well,
doesn't happen.
most of them, like you say, don't think they need that legally. They have this idea that laws don't apply to them. And then they'll put their so-called lawyer on the phone, which really probably isn't a lawyer.
Yeah,
Most lawyers
exactly.
would take that case and still keep their bar standing. In
Yeah.
fact,
Oh,
when these people go to court and they get public defenders, the public defender says, sorry, can't, they don't want a public defender because they don't tell them what they want. So the public defenders say, sorry, he doesn't want me or she doesn't want me. And the judges, have to deal with this, what they call pro se. That's legal
exactly. I,
represent.
I do have a couple of things I want to talk about real quick. First off, earlier this week was Veterans Day in the U.S. Your father served, your relatives have served, my father served, I have relatives who served. Uh, just want to thank all those veterans, past and present, for their service um, to the U.S. and to all the veterans across the world who may be listening to this. Thank you for being there, doing what you can to serve your country. That is very much appreciated.
The city where I live, Fishers, Indiana, has always done a great job of having a very, very nice Veterans Day and Memorial Day ceremony. In fact, it got to the point where I think Fishers was the first entity, the first locality in the state of Indiana to officially form an Armed Services Commission, which is part of city government. And they now are in charge of Veterans Day, putting that program together. Memorial Day, which is also a very elaborate and very well done ceremony. So I want to kind of give a shout out to Fishers, Indiana, a suburb of Indianapolis of about 107,000 people. That ceremony goes back to when we were a little town, and it's grown with the growth of our little community here. So, and I think that it's because the community supports that, and we have a good set of veterans that care about these sorts of things. But yeah, every Veterans Day is special. It's the day where we thank the veterans, and yeah, our fathers both served in the military, and my dad joined every veterans organization that was available to him. He just felt that was important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second thing is, something that's near and dear to my beautiful and awesome wife's Kim's heart is the aurora borealis, the northern lights that were visible on Tuesday night over much of the United States. We were able to go outside. She was actually taking a bath and came out, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" She's like, "The northern lights are visible. We need to go out and see them." So she went out. She was taking some pictures, texted me on my phone, said, "You need to get out here." And to be able to view this from the naked eye and then see some of the pictures that folks posted on Facebook, absolutely beautiful. So thanks to the sun for the solar flares that allowed this, and the magnetic storms that changed it a little bit so we could see the aurora borealis live. It was a very nice and interesting experience.
I looked at social media and I saw your post and Kim's post, but some of the best posts were police departments. Some of the
Yep.
police officers just pulled off the side of the road and took some pictures and videos. They were great.
Yeah, one I liked, actually, one I really liked in particular was in Lake Mead outside of Vegas. They did it over the aurora borealis over Lake Mead, and that was truly stunning. There are a lot of good shots out there on Facebook of it, and it's just something really that I was very, very happy that Kim was able to see that. We've chased it before when it's been in Indiana and haven't caught it that well, and then to be able to see it from our driveway was truly a great experience. So I'm glad for everybody that got to see it, and for those that didn't see it live. Those pictures are something that folks took because they were there, they saw it happen, and it was just a great experience.
I haven't talked to my daughter's family in South Dakota. I'm guessing they had a better view of that.
They should have. Yeah, the further north you were, the better it was. And they were hoping it was going to be for a second night, but something changed and it was not able to be seen. But for the first night, it was one of those big things that rarely happens where we live in central Indiana.
Yeah, we rarely get that opportunity. So yeah, take the chance while you get it. You get the opportunity, jump out of the bathtub, get dressed, and get
Yep.
out like Kim did, which was great. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, I just hope everybody is getting back to work. I hope their paychecks for federal employees come as soon as possible. And for those out there in the job market, I see, I'm on several sites and I see it every day. I know it's tough. Keep plugging away, keep believing in yourself, and just, do what you can to put yourself out there, make yourself as marketable as possible so you can get back on that right track and get hired, get some work, because it's getting dire out there. I don't care what the statistics are. I see way too much anecdotal evidence that times are very, very tough for employees out there.
Well, of course, we don't have up-to-date stats, do we? For
No, we do not.
We won't even get into why that's the case. But I do think that we all need to go back to something you mentioned, and what you mentioned was the SNAP benefits. I was, my early warning system for when we're going into an economic downturn are the township trustees. And I live in Fishers, which is a fairly, we're not the most elite or we're not particularly high income, but we're above other places in the state in Fishers, Indiana. And what I am finding is that the township trustees were telling me before all this happened that they were seeing an uptick in demand in their food pantries.
Yep.
And people forget that in the state of Indiana, the township trustees they're the first line to help people with poor relief, at least from the governmental level. Obviously, a lot of nonprofits and others are out there doing good work too, but when it comes to Indiana government, that's the lowest form of government, and they're supposed to help with poor relief. And they were seeing an uptick, pretty significant uptick in the demand for their services before all this happened, before the SNAP situation even occurred. So it's going to take a week or so for everybody to get their SNAP benefits back.
Yep.
There have been some great nonprofits in the Indianapolis area where Duncan and I live trying to fill that gap. But man, that's a huge gap to fill.
Absolutely.
I feel for that. So those people, I mean, we're talking about, for the most part, the working poor, people that work hard for a living and just don't make enough money to pay for food. And think about that for a moment. And then I think it all comes into clear focus for us all. Thank you again, Duncan Giles. Always a pleasure to talk with you. And if all goes well, we will return next week with another Lannan and Giles Unscripted. We have one ask for you as the audience. Like and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate it. Duncan and Larry will be back soon with another episode. In the meantime, this is Unscripted.